The last van is staying for VIP guests. Just grab an Uber home. We'll talk tomorrow.
Evan Brooks said it quietly to his wife. At a wedding their company was running. A transportation company. Rachel Brooks looked at him for a long moment, and she did not reach for her phone. 20 minutes earlier, the mother of the bride had crossed a full ballroom to find her. Linda Mercer was still holding the laminated transportation grid Rachel had printed that morning. The one with every pickup, every driver, every backup plan on a single page.
I wanted to thank you personally. Dana told me you're the reason this weekend finally made sense.
Rachel started to answer. Her husband stepped between them.
Brooke runs the guest experience now. Rachel handles some of the back office details.
Rachel looked at the paper in Linda's hand. Her initials were printed at the bottom of every page.
I built the schedule you're holding.
Evan's smile tightened.
Not here, Rachel.
Behind him, Brooke Lane stood in a silver dress that matched the company's new logo. 3 months ago, she'd been hired to make short videos for Northline Event Mobility. Tonight, Evan had introduced her to the hotel executives as the woman helping him take the company national. Rachel hadn't even known that was the story he was telling. Then Brooke reached for his arm and said, far too comfortably,
"Babe, the photographer needs us near the stage."
The word landed harder than the Uber. Evan did not correct her. Rachel took out her phone. She opened the folder containing Northline's operating agreement. Because Evan had just made the most expensive mistake of his life. He thought he was sending an employee home. He had tried to erase a co-owner. But to understand how a man ends up telling the co-owner of a transportation company to find her own ride, you have to go back to one van with a cracked cup holder. 5 years earlier, Northline Event Mobility was a 12-passenger van with a cracked cup holder and a monthly payment Evan and Rachel could barely make. Evan found the van. Rachel found the work. She emailed wedding planners, churches, retirement communities. She built a website at their kitchen table after her day job and answered inquiries at 11 at night with cold coffee and a highlighter. Evan was good with people. He could walk into a room where nobody knew him and leave with 3 phone numbers and an invitation to call Monday. Rachel was good at what happened after Monday. She learned which hotels had loading zones that fit a van and which ones towed after 10 unattended minutes. She built driver packets, backup driver lists, a maintenance calendar, a lost item log after a bridesmaid left her purse under seat 9. When Evan forgot to invoice a client, Rachel invoiced. When a driver quit 2 days before a conference, Rachel replaced him. When a couple complained about a pickup running 7 minutes late, Rachel called before they could post the review and refunded the 7 minutes, not the wedding. In those days, Evan loved telling people they were a team. "I get us in the door," he'd say. Rachel would smile. "And I make sure nobody throws us back out." People always laughed. Nobody ever asked which job was harder. By year 3, they had 3 vans and 8 part-time drivers, and their attorney put an operating agreement on the table. Evan took 60%. He had bought the first van and taken the first loan. Rachel took 40%, for her savings, her systems, and 5 years of work nobody had ever paid her for. Evan laughed while he signed. "We're married. We don't need paperwork to tell us we're together." Rachel signed without laughing. "The marriage tells us we're together," she said. "The paperwork tells the bank what that means." For years, the difference didn't matter. Then people started recognizing Evan. The call that changed Northline came from a wedding planner named Dana Kim, 4 hours before a ceremony, on the worst Saturday of her year. "Tell me you have a miracle." Rachel looked at the schedule. No miracle. 2 backup drivers, 1 available van, and a lot of guests about to get new text messages. "I'll take it." A bigger vendor had canceled 2 buses on Dana that morning. Mechanical issue, they said, which is vendor language for "we double booked and you lost." Rachel split the pickups by mobility and location. She asked the hotel to hold 1 group in the lobby 12 extra minutes. She moved the wedding party to a contracted SUV and sent Evan to the church for the second loop. Dana watched Rachel stand at the hotel entrance with a clipboard, a phone charger, and the expression of a woman who had scheduled her panic for Tuesday. At one point, Evan jogged over. "The photographer wants the van for a shot." Rachel didn't look up. "The photographer can take a picture of it after it transports the people who paid for it." Dana laughed for the first time that day. The ceremony started 6 minutes late. Nobody missed it. The bride never even knew there had been a problem. In this business, that is what a miracle looks like. 2 weeks later, Dana called again. September. The Harbor Grand. Big guest list, airport runs, rehearsal dinner, ceremony reception. And Rachel, the bride's mother, is Linda Mercer. She runs operations for a regional hotel group. Evan, listening on speaker, sat up straighter. Linda isn't promising anyone a contract, Dana said. But her group is reviewing transportation vendors. Conferences. Weddings. 11 properties. If this wedding runs clean, Northline gets invited to the bid. Evan mouthed, "This is it." Rachel asked the question he didn't. "When do you need the first route draft?" Brooke Lane came to Northline for a real reason. That part matters. The website looked dated. Evan wanted video. Dana's referral had convinced him Northline needed to look like a bigger company before it met the Harbor Grand people. And Brooke, who had run social media for restaurants and fitness studios, knew how to make ordinary work look expensive. Her first reel showed a Northline van gliding up to a rehearsal dinner while guests laughed under string lights. 20,000 views in 4 days. The video brought inquiries. Real ones. Rachel congratulated her. "That clip did better than anything we've ever posted." Brooke smiled. "People want a feeling. Nobody buys transportation. They buy the entrance." "They buy the entrance once," Rachel said. "They recommend us because everyone got home." Brooke's smile faded for half a second. Evan laughed like Rachel had told a joke. Soon Brooke was in sales meetings that had nothing to do with content. Evan started asking her opinion before Rachel finished explaining an operational problem. Then came the jackets. Brooke wanted new driver jackets, navy-fitted embroidered logo. Evan approved the expense the same afternoon. That same week, Rachel requested money for a routine inspection and 2 replacement tires. Evan told her cash was tight. "The jackets help us win better clients," he said. "The tires help us arrive at those clients," Rachel said. Dana happened to be in the office reviewing the wedding timeline. She looked at the jacket samples, then at Rachel's maintenance request, then back at the jackets. "I vote for the thing touching the highway." Evan smiled without humor. The tires were approved. So were the jackets. But that night, while Evan's tablet charged on the kitchen counter, a message flashed across the screen. It's from Brooke saying, "You look good today. Founder energy." Evan picked up the tablet before Rachel could say anything. "She's talking about the video shoot," he said. Rachel hadn't asked. She stood at the counter for a moment, drying the same mug twice. Founder energy. She'd been standing next to the founder for 5 years. Apparently the energy was new. 10 days before the wedding, the plan changed. 2 flights moved, and the bride's grandfather could no longer manage the high step into Northline's largest van. Rachel revised the schedule in 40 minutes and assigned the low-step vehicle to his hotel pickup. Brooke had already posted an animated itinerary to the private guest page. It had the old times and the old van. Rachel found out when 3 guests emailed Northline with 3 different versions of their own pickup. She walked into Evan's office. "Brooke needs to pull the post. It has the wrong airport pickups and the wrong van for Mr. Mercer." Brooke swiveled in the visitor chair. "Linda approved that graphic this morning. Linda approved the design. The airline changed the flights at noon." Evan leaned back. "Can we stop treating every adjustment like a 5-alarm fire?" Rachel set the revised schedule on his desk. An 81-year-old man cannot climb into the vehicle Brooke assigned him. That is not an aesthetic difference. Brooke folded her arms. "You could have just told me. I'm telling you now. Your tone makes everything sound like somebody failed." "The information failed," Rachel said. "Fixing it is your job because you published it." Evan stood up. "Rachel, don't embarrass her." Rachel corrected the guest page herself, after Brooke finally surrendered the login, and sent the updated schedule to Dana and the hotel. Dana called within minutes. "Did we just move an airport?" "No, we moved 2 pickups." "Good. I don't have the budget for an airport." Rachel laughed despite herself. Then Dana's voice changed. "Rachel, Linda is noticing who sends the accurate updates. I'm not trying to compete with anybody." "Maybe not," Dana said. "But somebody is competing with you. And she's not doing it on the schedule." The rehearsal dinner ran clean until 9:40 p.m., when a delayed flight left 6 guests standing at baggage claim after the last scheduled airport run. Evan wanted to text them a rideshare code. "The contract includes delay coverage until 11, Rachel said. Brooke glanced at the tracking screen. "They'll understand. Everybody uses Uber." Rachel shook her head. They paid us so that 70 relatives wouldn't have to make separate decisions in a city they don't know. She called a trusted backup driver, combined the airport pickup with the late hotel run, and got all 6 guests to the venue before dessert. No extra van. No extra cost. Linda found her in the lobby. That was handled quickly. We planned for delays, Rachel said. Evan appeared at her shoulder. That's the Northline standard. Linda smiled at him pleasantly. Rachel explained the standard. The next morning, Dana handed Brooke a driver meal schedule. Brooke looked at it like it was written in a foreign alphabet. Why do I need this? Because your content plan has every driver working through dinner. They can eat between runs. Dana pointed at the page. Show me the between. Brooke studied the schedule. Dana waited. It was a long wait. Drivers are people, Dana said finally. Not decorative steering wheels. Rachel adjusted the brakes without losing coverage, and by the reception, every guest had arrived. The bride was glowing. The hotel staff was relaxed. The new navy jackets looked sharp in every photo. Rachel had to give them credit for that. Evan was thrilled. And because the pressure had passed, he started rewriting what had happened. He moved Brooke beside him for photographs. He introduced her to 2 hotel executives as Northline's new direction. He told one guest that Rachel preferred paperwork, as if being invisible had been her own choice. Then Linda Mercer crossed the ballroom to thank the wrong person, in Evan's opinion. And Evan told his wife to take an Uber home. After Brooke said the word, nobody spoke for several seconds. Brooke's hand dropped from his arm. Evan looked around the ballroom to see who had heard. Rachel noticed that before she noticed anything else. Not guilt. Not panic. He was checking who had seen. Even now, he was only worried about how he looked to other people. How long? She asked. Evan lowered his voice. This is not the place. You made it the place when you introduced her using my job. Brooke stepped forward. Rachel, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. What wasn't? Brooke looked at Evan. That answer was enough. Dana appeared beside Rachel. She didn't ask what happened. Her eyes went from Brooke's hand to Evan's face, and she understood everything. Rachel, she said. My car's downstairs. Evan exhaled. Dana, this is private. Dana looked at him the way she looked at vendors who canceled buses. Then you should have kept it out of my vendor briefing. Rachel walked to the operations table. She collected her laptop and the signed transportation reports and handed the active guest file to the night driver. She did not strand a single passenger. She did not cancel a route. She did not take keys the drivers needed. Later, people would call that grace. It wasn't grace. It was ownership. You don't burn down a building you hold 40% of. In the car, Dana kept both hands on the wheel. Do you want me to talk, or do you want quiet? Quiet for 5 minutes. Done. After 4 minutes, Dana said, I'm starting the 5 minutes over, because I used 1. Rachel laughed once. Then she covered her face and cried the whole way home. Evan came home at 10 the next morning. Rachel was at the dining table with the operating agreement, the company laptop, and a legal pad. She'd been there since 6. He started with the affair, because he thought that was the dangerous part. Brooke and I crossed a line. Rachel looked up. How many times? Rachel. Crossing a line is one decision. You built a road. He sat down across from her. It started after the restaurant shoot. We were working late. I felt like she believed in where I was taking the company. I believed in it before there was a company. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. She admired you without knowing enough to challenge you. Evan's jaw tightened. You make every decision feel like a test I'm failing. No. The vans, the drivers, the clients, the money, they create consequences. I'm usually the one telling you before the consequences arrive. You've confused the warning with the punishment. He looked at the papers. What is this? Our operating agreement. I own 40% of Northline. I know what you own. Do you? Because last night you introduced a contractor as the person running my department. He rubbed his forehead. We can work out the business separately. That's exactly what we're going to do. Rachel slid 2 documents across the table. The first restored her authority as operations director, removed Brooke from all operational decisions, and required an independent review of company spending. The second started a buyout. The company would be professionally priced, and Evan would pay Rachel for her 40%. You have until Wednesday to choose which conversation we're having. Evan stared at her. You came home from our biggest wedding and drafted a corporate ultimatum? No, Rachel said. I came home from our biggest wedding and stopped confusing marriage with protection. On Monday, Rachel learned Evan had already chosen. He just hadn't planned on telling her. Her login to the scheduling platform was dead. The office manager, sounding rehearsed and miserable, said Evan had announced Rachel was taking personal leave. Rachel drove to the office and walked into the conference room, where Brooke was presenting the company's bid documents for the Harbor Grand contract. The title under Brooke's name read, Chief Operating Officer. Rachel stood in the doorway. Where did you get that title? Brooke half closed the laptop. Evan asked me to step in. Stepping in and becoming a corporate officer are not the same thing. One is a favor. The other is a legal filing. Evan came out of his office. I was going to call you. After the bid went out, I'm the majority owner, Rachel. I decide who manages day-to-day operations. Rachel held out her hand. Open the agreement to Section 6. I don't need a legal lesson in front of staff. Then you shouldn't have created a legal problem in front of staff. The office went silent. 2 drivers by the coffee machine had stopped pretending to read the whiteboard. Rachel didn't shout. She'd never needed to. You removed my access. You announced a leave I never requested. And you put a false officer title into a bid for a hotel group. Restore my access by noon, or my attorney contacts the company. Brooke looked at Evan. You said this was handled. Rachel turned to her, and her voice softened just slightly, which somehow made it worse. He also said you ran guest operations. How much of what he tells you have you actually checked? For the first time since she'd walked through Northline's door, Brooke had no answer ready. Rachel's attorney sent the notice that afternoon. The operating agreement gave Evan control over the day-to-day business. It did not let him lie about who the company's officers were. It did not let him hide important contracts. And it did not let him push out another owner without following the rules. Section 6. The part he signed while laughing. Company counsel sent the Harbor Grand a corrected organization chart. The bid invitation was paused. Evan called her within the hour. You killed the bid. You submitted false information. We could have fixed the title later. The hotel is deciding whether to trust us with their guests, their schedules, and their name. Your plan was to open with a lie. You're doing this because of Brooke. Rachel took a breath. I'm divorcing you because of Brooke. I'm protecting my ownership because of you. The line went quiet. He had expected her to be angry and jealous. Anger he could dismiss. Jealousy he could blame on Brooke. He did not expect her to be this calm. And this clear. By Friday, Evan had rejected the first proposal, the one that gave Rachel her job back. He wanted the buyout instead. Rachel agreed. Then she did something no one asked her to do. She built a complete handover folder. Every active schedule, every driver's contact and paperwork, every maintenance date, every vendor, every promise made to a client. Tabbed. Labeled. 3 inches thick. At the end of the handover meeting, Evan pointed at it. You expect Brooke to learn all this? No, Rachel said, standing. I expected you to understand it before deciding she could replace me. For 2 weeks, Northline looked fine. That was the most dangerous thing that could have happened, because it made Evan bold. He and Brooke signed a 3-day shuttle contract with a downtown convention center. Smaller than the hotel group, but Evan treated it like proof that Rachel had exaggerated her own importance. Brooke redesigned the guest messages. She ordered new polos to match the jackets. She posted a behind-the-scenes video titled Building a Transportation Empire, in which Evan stood in front of 4 vans with his arms crossed like a man on a magazine cover. Day 1 of the convention began at 5:50 a.m., when a driver woke up with the flu and did the responsible thing. He called in. Brooke opened her spreadsheet and called the listed backup. The number belonged to a man who had stopped driving for Northline 6 months earlier. He was, at that moment, delivering appliances in another state, and said so, with some confusion. At 6:15, Evan called Rachel. I need the backup roster. It's in the transition folder. Tab 4. Active backup drivers with cell numbers and the hours they'll actually answer. I'm not at the office. Then call Brooke. She accepted the operating title. Rachel, we have guests waiting. And you have every contact I was legally required to hand over in a folder you've never opened. She ended the call. Then she sat on the edge of her bed in the short-term apartment and stared at the phone, because there is a version of being right that still hurts. Evan found a driver by 7:20. The first route ran 35 minutes late. 80 conference attendees stood in a hotel lobby watching 4 drivers in beautiful navy jackets standing beside vans that were not moving. One attendee filmed the departure board and posted it with the caption, "Our shuttle is building an empire, apparently." It got more engagement than Brooke's video. That afternoon, the largest van lit up a maintenance warning. The same warning Rachel had flagged in writing before she left. Brooke wanted to keep it running. "It's a light, Evan. Lights come on." Evan opened the transition folder for the first time. Tab 9. Rachel's handwriting in capital letters. "Do not operate until inspected." He stood in the depot for a long minute, holding the page. Then he canceled the route. 200 convention guests got a text telling them to arrange their own rides. The client's operations director stood at the curb, staring at the empty space where a van should have been. He filed a formal complaint before dinner. Nobody was hurt. Nothing exploded. There was just a company that had promised reliability, discovering what reliability had been costing, and who had been paying it. The second wave arrived quietly, the way real collapses do. Payroll was due Friday. Payroll had always simply happened, the way sunrise happens. It happened because Rachel ran it every Thursday night at her kitchen table with a calculator and a rule. Drivers get paid before anyone gets paid. This Friday, nothing happened. By Saturday morning, 2 drivers had picked up weekend work with a competitor. By Monday, one of them wasn't coming back, the one who knew the airport's cell phone lot better than the airport did. That night, Brooke sat in Evan's office with the transition folder open between them. She had been reading it for 2 hours. Her ring light sat in the corner, switched off. Brooke tapped the maintenance log. She flagged this van 3 weeks before she left. She always buried me in paperwork. "Evan, this page has 4 lines on it." He looked away. She turned to the payroll tab. "There's a note here. Run Thursday night. Drivers get paid first. Always. It's underlined. So we'll run it Thursdays." "That's not the point. The point is somebody wrote that down for you, for free, on her way out of a marriage you ended in a ballroom." Evan stood up. "Whose side are you on?" Brooke laughed, and there was no humor in it at all. "That question is exactly the problem. I thought I was joining a growing company. I didn't know I was taking an exam on your marriage. You wanted this role. I wanted influence. You told me the operation was simple. So learn it." Brooke looked at the folder. 3 inches of tabs. 5 years of Thursdays. And in that moment, she finally understood what Rachel had asked her in the conference room. Evan hadn't chosen Brooke because she'd proven she could do Rachel's work. He'd chosen her because she hadn't yet discovered how much work there was. Nobody handed Rachel a new company. For 6 weeks, she worked from a spare desk in Dana's office and lived in a short-term apartment while the divorce and the buyout crawled forward. Some nights she ate cereal for dinner and read contract law until the words stopped meaning things. Dana paid her to coordinate transportation for 3 weddings. Rachel didn't drive the routes or own the vehicles. She built the transportation plans, checked the insurance, matched the right vans to the right guests, and handled the backup plans when things changed. It was the work she had always done, just with her own name on it. Her first week, Dana's longtime friend Miles brought lunch from his restaurant and set the container beside Rachel's laptop. Dana said you forget to eat when a spreadsheet has colors. Dana says a lot for somebody who invoices by the hour. She charged me for the warning. Miles didn't ask about the divorce. He didn't tell her she deserved better. He asked whether the shuttle setup for his restaurant's holiday events could be improved. Rachel gave him a real answer, with 2 options and a price difference. He became her second client. A client with a signed contract and a real invoice. She was done building things that only existed in someone else's name. 2 months after the wedding, the Harbor Grand's vendor manager called Northline in for a formal review. The hotel group hadn't promised to restore the bid. It wanted to understand what had happened before deciding whether Northline could ever apply again. Because Rachel had been an owner during the wedding, she was invited. Evan arrived with Brooke. Rachel arrived with her attorney and a document case. Linda Mercer sat beside the vendor manager, and on the table in front of her, Rachel noticed at the moment she walked in, was the laminated transportation grid. The meeting began with one question. Why was Rachel Brooks's name removed from the bid documents, when our notes say she was the one running the operation? Evan answered first. We were restructuring. The vendor manager turned to Brooke. Were you chief operating officer? Brooke was quiet for a moment. No, not formally. I was a contractor. Evan told me the title reflected where the company was going. Evan turned toward her. She kept her eyes on the vendor manager. Then the manager asked Rachel to explain how Northline had handled problems during the wedding. Rachel opened the case. The route change log. The van switch for the bride's grandfather. The backup driver she called at 9:40 p.m. The driver meal schedule. The lost item report, solved in under an hour. She never mentioned the affair. She never raised her voice. She didn't insult Evan once. She didn't need to. The records told the whole story. And records don't take sides. Linda lifted the laminated grid. I kept this, she said, because it was the first document that made my daughter's wedding feel manageable. Who created it? I did, Rachel said. Who maintained it? I did. With updates from Dana and your hotel staff. Linda looked at Evan for a long moment. Then why did you tell me she handled back-office details? Evan didn't know what to say. So for once in a year, he said the truth. I made a personal situation part of a business decision. From the end of the table, Dana, invited because the referral had been hers, nodded slowly. That's the cleanest thing he said all morning. Even Linda smiled. The hotel group rejected Northline for that vendor cycle. The fake title in the bid. The chaos at the top. The convention complaint. It did not hand the work to Rachel. Rachel had a new company with 2 clients and 1 subcontractor. She didn't own enough vehicles to serve 11 hotel properties, and pretending she did would have made her Evan with better handwriting. The vendor manager told her, build 12 months of clean performance. Then apply as a coordinator, with approved companies working under you. Rachel wrote it down, word for word, in the same legal pad from the dining table. Evan caught her in the hallway after. You got what you wanted. Rachel turned around. No, I wanted the company we built to become something we could both be proud of. You made sure they rejected us. You removed my name. You ignored the agreement. You submitted a title that wasn't real. You ignored a maintenance warning with 4 lines on it. Which one of those decisions did I make? Evan had no answer. Behind him, Brooke walked past carrying her own bag. Are you coming? He asked. No, Brooke said and kept walking. She stopped beside Rachel. For a second, neither woman spoke. I owe you an apology. You do. I believed what I wanted to believe. And you accepted credit you knew you hadn't earned. Brooke nodded. She didn't argue, which was the first professional thing Rachel had ever seen her do. Rachel didn't offer friendship. She didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't, and they were both adults. She said, don't do it to the next woman, and walked to the elevator alone. Putting a price on the company took 4 months, and every one of them was a fight. Evan argued Northline had lost value because Rachel left. Rachel's attorney pointed out, in writing, that the loss began the day Evan locked out a 40% owner and put a fictional officer in a hotel bid. The numbers agreed with the attorney. Numbers usually do. They settled. Installments secured by company assets. As part of it, Rachel bought the smallest van at fair market value and kept the rights to the routing templates she'd built before Northline existed. Evan kept the brand, the client list, and the folder. The separation was clean enough to survive a courtroom and painful enough to be real. The day Rachel collected the van, Evan was standing beside it in the depot lot, holding the keys like he hadn't decided whether to hand them over. I'm sorry, he said. Rachel waited. She wanted to hear the whole apology before she decided what it was worth. For Brooke. For the wedding. For acting like you were holding me back, when you were holding everything together. Thank you for saying it clearly. Is there any chance? No. He looked down at the keys, then gave them to her. I forgive the man who finally told the truth, Rachel said. I'm not returning to the man who needed to lose me before he'd say it. She opened the driver's door. Evan touched the side of the van. You always hated driving this one. Rachel smiled, just slightly. I hated driving it for free. 10 months after the Harbor Grand wedding, Rachel's company had coordinated transportation for 11 events and 2 corporate retreats. She still owned exactly 1 van. The rest of her business ran on trusted local van companies, written backup plans, and one simple rule. Never promise vans you do not have. It sounded obvious. In this industry, it was rare. When the hotel group reopened its vendor process, Rachel applied. Her proposal did not use the word empire. It showed completion rates, complaint response times, verified carrier insurance, accessibility planning, backup coverage with phone numbers that answered. Dana reviewed the final proposal the night before it went in. It needs more founder energy, she said. Rachel looked at her over the laptop. Dana pointed at Rachel's photo. Make your head 20% bigger. Maybe a van behind you at sunset. I'm deleting your access. That's fair. 3 weeks later, Rachel's company won a 1-year pilot coordinating transportation for 2 hotel properties. Not because Linda felt sorry for her. Linda Mercer had never felt sorry for anyone in her professional life. Because Rachel had built the exact record the hotel had asked for, in exactly 12 months, and applied on the first day the window opened. That evening, Miles stopped by Dana's office while Rachel was packing up. I have a question that is not about shuttles. Rachel closed her laptop. That sounds suspicious. Dinner Friday. No Dana. No invoice. No transportation grid. From the next room, Dana shouted, I can still hear you. That's why I said no Dana. Rachel laughed. Then she looked at Miles, a man who had watched her rebuild from a spare desk and had never once told her how to do it. 1 dinner, she said. 1 dinner. She didn't need a new man to prove the old one wrong. But rebuilding a life doesn't mean bolting every door. It means finally being the one who decides which one's open. The laminated transportation grid from the Harbor Grand wedding hangs in a plain black frame beside her desk now. Evan called it back office detail. The hotel called it evidence. Rachel knows what it actually is. It's the map of the night she stopped carrying a man who had mistaken being seen for knowing where he was going.